left unsaid. Days that can't be counted by the time till rent. Tomorrow's just another like the one that comes next. The corner of the highway that leads to the job at the desk by the boss with the elegant watch. The tick of the clock and the tick of the clock mark the moments till the ticking stops.
James Cordova, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kelly. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
I don't know how much you know about the field of improvisation. I'm going to assume not a ton. But in our work, we stress that it's a practice that requires you to be fiercely in the moment. And your overriding job is to save your partner, and their job is to save you. You also learn to see all obstacles as gifts, and you learn to play the scene you're in, not the scene you want to be in. So after reading your book, it seems like this is very connected.
I hear a lot of resonance in that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason the podcast exists, right? Is that improvisation is human being practice, and the skills of improvisation when you're making something out of nothing, it turns out, are pretty healthy ways of having relationships.
Right? Yeah. No, I was reading up a little bit about it when I was getting ready for this podcast and thinking something very similar. Like, there's just so much that's about like meeting the moment and just meeting it for what it is and moving forward, right?
Yeah,
Regardless
no judgment.
of whatever's happening.
No judgment.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so what's there's so much I enjoyed in the book. In the introduction, you say, quote, "We can find ourselves at a place in our relationship when we're comfortable, but not close, as if we traded connection for stability." That rings very true from what I hear in a lot of my friends' relationships.
Yeah, for me, it is the way in which I feel, and I think I see in other relationships. It's how we resolve this porcupine's dilemma, right? The fact that we are both sensitive and vulnerable, and also prickly, right? And just humans, right? So, and the closer that we get to each other, the more vulnerable we are to each other. And staying inside of that vulnerable space, is a practice, and it requires an incredible amount of skill, both to be able to navigate the ways in which we do these little, we create these little harms in our partner, that are just like we're stepping on each other's toes. Sometimes it's not a big deal. Sometimes it's a bigger deal. And how we receive those little toe steps, right? Those little harms. And staying inside of Quill's distance, which is how I think of that intimate space, is so challenging that I think for many, if not most couples, the compromise that they make is to stay as close as they can, but just outside of Quill's distance, so that they're close but not too close. And then I think the side effect of that is everything looks like it ought to look, but we're still carrying a quality of loneliness in our relationship that we can't quite put our finger on why that is.
Early in the book, you mentioned something that really stuck with me, which is this idea that the problem is pain, and that everyone is entering a relationship with a pain, and they might not even know how to articulate that particular pain. But the solution is not, the pain isn't going away.
Right.
So the solution isn't like, oh, fix your pain. It's like, I'm going to be present with your pain, and you're going to be present with mine. We're going to screw up, but as long as we are focused on that North Star, we got a really good chance of making this thing work.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that we think about intimacy is that it really is rooted in, it's a product of the vulnerability that we bring to the moment, the vulnerability that we bring into this relationship. And the sort of fundamental challenge of that is vulnerability never becomes invulnerability, and vulnerability feels vulnerable, right?
That's the rough part about that.
That's right, as it turns out, right? So, and what is it? It's vulnerability to pain, right? It's vulnerability to hurt. And of course, we become the source in each other's lives of both the person who we yearn to feel the safest with,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also, this is the paradox of it, the person who is, just by virtue of being so close to us, the person who's going to most frequently hurt us in small ways, in medium-sized ways, sometimes in large ways, right? So we're navigating this really complex space when we talk about an intimate relationship, where um, we're trying to cultivate for each other a relationship in which both of us feel safe being our vulnerable, authentic selves, while at the same time we're constantly stepping on each other's toes.
Well, and that's the razor's edge, isn't it? Where you have to figure out, okay, what is a mistake, a minor hurt, and when is it? Oh, someone is actually using our closeness to hurt me.
Mm,
Because I've been in both. I've been in both relationships, and gladly I'm in the better one now.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
But we all move through those, right? Like you
Yeah.
get to that one that feels like, oh, this one, by having, learned through experience, right? And I think that really is the key. That our instinct is to turn away from vulnerability, to find ways to keep ourselves, well, if you're not going to keep me safe, then I'm going to keep myself safe, but I'm going to stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that is an unfortunately common place that people find themselves in their relationships. But the key for me is that there is real strength in our capacity to maintain our vulnerability in a relationship, because if I am committed to being my authentic, vulnerable self in a relationship with you, I learn really quickly how capable you are of taking good and loving care of my vulnerability. If you're committed to being your vulnerable, authentic self with me, you're going to learn really quickly how capable I am of being careful and loving with your vulnerability. And if the answer is not very, then that's information that I get to
Yeah.
use to make wise choices about whether to continue to be in what I hope to cultivate as a long-term, intimate relationship.
And check me if I'm wrong. While I understand that the book is about romantic relationships, this doesn't apply just to romantic relationships.
Oh no,
Yeah.
absolutely. What we know from what gobs of research
Yeah.
is that the more deeply intimate relationships, the closer relationships that we have, the wider that network of closer relationships is, the healthier we are, the more resilient we are to all of the slings and arrows of what it's like to be a human being through, illness, old age, right? The vagaries of life, right? So developing this quality of trusting relationship with many people is essential to our emotional and psychological health.
The reason I brought that up literally a half hour ago, I'm not feeling great today. Like I'm feeling a little bit off.
Mhm.
There's maybe allergies. I've got a little puppy at home, which is great, but it's hard work.
Yeah.
So lots going on. And I ran into a colleague I don't see often. I've known this person for probably 30 years.
Mm.
We've been in many situations together. Are we close? Like we're very friendly. He's always someone that I enjoyed. We kind of ran into each other. He had a little time, so we were chatting. And I'm like, how's the family? And he kind of went,
Yeah.
eh. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, my kid's having trouble.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah. I said, I've been there. My son Nick is, now 27. He had rough times in high school and grade school, but
Mhm.
he's
Mhm.
doing well. I go, and we had a really good chat about it, and I think I made him feel a little bit better. You know what? Actually, though, it made me feel better.
Right.
And I think it was just like we were just vulnerable with each other in a
Mhm.
way, and not trying to like. I'm not. And what we both said is the worst thing about being a parent in these situations is you can't do anything.
Oh my God. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
and I think if more of us did that with people who aren't even our close friends,
right.
it would solve a lot of the ills that seem to be plaguing us in our society.
Well, I love that story, and there's several things that I love about it. One, that that your friend, and this is true for all of us, right? Like um, our our vulnerable selves are actually really obvious. We think that we're hiding them, but they're really obvious, and we get trained to pretend that we don't see each other.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't do that, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
friend just sort of stuttered a little bit, just gave a little bit of like, meh, right? And you could have, and it would have been absolutely socially acceptable, and maybe even more socially acceptable, to just pretend you didn't see that,
Yeah.
right? And to move on with a more surface level conversation. But you didn't do that, right? You saw
Mm-hmm.
him and you didn't pretend that you didn't see him. You
Mm-hmm.
you asked, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like what's up,
Yep.
right? And that is such a crucial move, because that's that choice opportunity that we have over and over again to turn away or to turn toward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just your choice in that microsecond to turn toward, um, resulted in something that was so much more meaningful, right?
Yeah.
Such a better way to spend that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to. I don't. It's a virtue of age and things I've gone through.
Mm,
I don't want to have these. I love small conversations, but I want them to be smart and purposeful and meaningful.
right. Right. I don't have time for the shallow ones,
I
right?
literally like Dan Pink has this book on regret where he's like, count how many weekends you have left, and it's a very sobering thing to do because it's not
Right.
that many. And and when you do it, you're like, okay, so where am I putting my attention?
Yeah.
And this is so important in your book because you say, quote, attention is the most basic form of love,
Mm.
end quote. Talk more about that.
Yeah, so this is there's several sources for this one. The one that I stole it from most directly is a Zen teacher called John Tarrant, and the our attention is always somewhere, but especially nowadays, you notice how scattered our attention can be, how challenging it can be to keep our attention on one thing, one person in particular. Folks are constantly distracted by their phones, looking past each other. I think a lot of us in conversations, one of the things that I'll um, ask some of the classes that I teach to do is like, next time you're out in a restaurant, in a cafe, like just don't pretend you're not eavesdropping. Eavesdrop on purpose, right? And pay attention to how people are talking to each other. Mostly they're just taking turns talking about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They could be sitting at completely separate tables with completely different people and having exactly the same conversation. But what we find, especially in our job, I imagine that this is true in your job, as this part of your job, right?
Yeah.
Like interviewing people, like when you give people your full attention, they blossom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we so many of us are so hungry for somebody to give us their full attention, and we receive it as a kind of mattering, right? We
Mm-hmm.
receive it as being cared about, and I think especially in our families, in our intimate relationships, in our long-term romantic relationships, it becomes really easy because of things that we know about how our mind and perception work, to start to really take each other's presence for granted. And even though we're spending time in the same house, maybe we even spending time doing the same thing, we're not really paying attention to each other. And again, I think out of that sense that inattention is really perceived as disconnection, and of course then the other side of that coin, that being met, being seen, being having somebody be curious about you, to bring that full attention to you, really feels like love.
Yeah. I think it's important to also note that you can be so smart about this stuff, but we're all going to do it. I have a terrific marriage. I really do. And it's people say that. They like no. But I was reading this book and I'm talking to my wife Anne and I'm realizing like, oh no, my phone's, I got to turn my phone over. I've got to stop. I got to just sit and listen.
Hmm.
And I did that and it was great. She could feel it. I could feel it. But we make this joke at Second City that we're like doctors who smoke. We'll go teach people how to do this stuff, you know. And so, but I don't know that there's any way around it because the other side of this is perfection, which doesn't exist.
Right. Right. Well, and so that in some ways, Kelly, you're pointing at what is central to this book, right? Which is this practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
That as much as we think about meditation, mindfulness meditation, contemplative prayer as practices, right? This practice of dedicated, loving attention, it's a practice, right?
Yeah.
And like a language or learning how to play a musical instrument or dance, like you can fall out of practice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And get rusty at it, or you can stay in practice, right? And the more you practice, the better you get at it. But it's not one of those things that's an achievement, right? Like
Yeah.
like I got an A+ in listening and then I got to go on with the rest of my life and never really try anymore, right? I just get to
Yeah.
live resting on my laurels. I think that's the thing that I really want to communicate to couples through my work through this book is that transforming the way we think about our relationships from something that you just achieve and then rest into to something that is a daily, even moment by moment practice has the 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 value, the promise of being transformative, not just to the relationship as a whole, but to each moment that we have with each other.
So this morning, I woke up, we still get the newspapers. We get to the New York Times and Chicago Tribune. I open the Chicago Tribune and I see my friend in the paper. And I didn't know this. He wrote a book about his family business that he took over from his dad. And his dad died young, and I knew that. And I knew his dad actually quite well. But the book, the thing that sort of shocked me was, I guess his dad was an alcoholic
Mm.
and not the easiest guy.
Hmm.
My vision of this man is not that. Like it was a legendary figure, and so I
Hmm.
was like, oh wow, I didn't know this. And you talk a lot in this book about how parenting affects us in terms of our attachment styles.
Hmm.
And my friend wasn't trying to like get back at his dad. It was more of like, this is why I joined the church. This is why I
Hmm.
don't drink. This is why, that sort of thing. And so, like, we don't have any say over that, how we're parented.
No,
But it's unavoidable, right? That it is going to imprint an attachment style on us.
exactly.
How do you how do you deal with that? Please
Yeah.
tell me.
Give me the 10-second answer. Right. Yeah.
I'll give you 20 seconds.
It's part of the same thing. It's a lifetime practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it is about attention. It is about mindfulness. It is about becoming more and more clear about ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of mindfulness practice in relationship to ourselves and to each other is really just about getting to know ourselves. And if you don't know what your attachment style is, then it is driving the bus, not you. Right? But if you start to get a feel for what your attachment style is, then you can start to do things on purpose to try to with your own access to your own self-knowledge and your own wisdom, you can start doing things on purpose in relationship to try to cultivate a greater sense of security and intimacy. So our attachment style is really just the accumulation of what we've learned about how available other people are to us when we're freaking out, right? Like,
Yeah.
how available are other people to us when I need somebody? And some of us learn like other people are pretty reliable. In fact, it's about 60% of us learn other people are pretty reliable. Some of us learn when I really need other people, they're completely random. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not there. It has nothing to do with what's going on with me. And we learn, well, if other people aren't reliable, I really have to keep my eye on them. Right? We start to develop a way of being in relationship that's very vigilant. Because I don't know if you're going to be there for me when I need you, so I need to keep an eye on you. And others of us learn that nobody really cares, right? Like if I really need somebody, I kind of have to rely on myself, because my life has taught me when it hits the fan,
Mhm.
nobody's really going to be there for me. And then unfortunately, some of us learn that when I really need others, they're exploitative, right? When I really need others, they're actually painful. And when we start to recognize, oh, one of the lessons that I learned is other people don't care, um, then it opens up the possibility of purposely checking. Like my instinct's going to tell me that my partner doesn't care that I'm sad right now, but I want to form an intimate relationship with this. At least intellectually, it makes sense to me that it's something that I would want. So I'm going to have to practice saying something about it, like giving my partner the opportunity to show me whether or not they have the capacity to be there for me when I'm sad. Uh, and again, back to what we were talking about before, if they do meet that, then we know, like, oh, you're different from my history. You're somebody that actually cares and is going to show up. And if they don't, then again, that's information that we get to use. But without having taken that risk and having to do it consciously, our instinct is always going to keep us a little bit turned away. And we're never really going to know what we and the people who love us are capable of.
Is there anything in the literature regarding big families versus like a couple kids? I'm the youngest of six boys,
Yeah.
and my sense of my own sort of relationship with my parents was like there was just like it was chaos.
They were overwhelmed.
You hide out in the family, like we're all too busy. There's too much stuff going
Mm-hmm.
on. And my parents stayed together their whole lives. My dad and I was close with both of them, very
Mm-hmm.
close with my dad. And intellectually aligned, politically aligned, culturally aligned, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
movies and plays and sports. And but I don't like I feel like, and then we have two kids. We lost one, and that's a whole different kind of relationship than my experience of the big family. Anything there?
Mm-hmm. I guess the thing that comes up for me is what we know about attachment figures, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be a parent,
Yeah.
right? That really, as long as there was somebody in your life who is the person that, when we ask the question, um, when you were hurt, when you were sad, the first time that you got your heart broken or a friend
Yep.
made fun of you, like who did you go to and how
Mm-hmm.
did they react?
Yep.
Right. And sometimes that's a parent, sometimes that's a brother or a sister or a cousin or your aunt next door or a next door neighbor, like, but I would imagine in a big family, it might more likely be a sibling.
Yeah. Yep. I think it was. I think also there was just more options.
Mm-hmm.
So there was almost always someone there that you could grab, and especially when I'm the youngest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially,
Right.
that. So, and I didn't get beat up. Like that wasn't the thing that happened in our family.
Mm-hmm.
But I had people who would intervene if someone else
Right.
wanted to. Um,
Yeah.
there's a line in the book that I put in bold in my notes, which is, quote, "Every single thing that we do matters,"
Mm-hmm.
end quote. That is so largely true, and not something that I think we're comfortable with.
Oh God, 100%, right? Like
Yeah.
it's such it's such an incredible um ownership of opportunity to really step into how much responsibility we have,
Hmm.
right? That we live in this world in a way that where we are, this is the paradox, right? Where we are both um where we're both cause and effect, right?
Hmm.
Like how we show up in a particular moment really is in so many ways just the accumulation of experiences that we've had up to that point.
Hmm.
And in this um a pinpoint moment, the present moment, when we are conscious and clear and mindful, we get to make choices, and whether that we're making those choices consciously or not, everything that we do has an impact on the people around us, and it's on both sides of it, right? Like the things that you do and the things that you fail to do all matter. They all get added, and nothing ever gets subtracted, right? And so that's
Hmm.
part of, we, I think when we make contact with that, we want to turn away from it because it feels like too much responsibility. But turning away from it doesn't change the truth of it. And I think in our intimate relationships, in our family relationships, in our friendships, when we really absorb that truth, that every word that comes out of my mouth is going to have an impact, like it's written in ink, right?
Hmm.
It,
Hmm.
nothing gets to be erased. Everything that I should have said that I didn't say also gets recorded in ink, right? And it 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 sharpens that sense that we matter, that our interactions matter, that um, each moment needs to be treated um, with care and clarity. There are no throwaway moments, right? Well, I didn't mean to say that.
Hmm.
The impact is what resonates, right? The intent vanishes, right? So again, this is for me a way to bring to mind the seriousness with which we need to be mindful in those in every interaction that we have with whoever it is, right? Because we are impactful whether we think we are or not.
I have a thought, which
Hmm.
is one of the ways to ease the burden
Hmm.
of understanding of these every one of these things is important. It's all written in ink. Is to approach these situations with play.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think about this. The thing that came up in my mind is my wife and I love the Thin Man books and movies. We named our kids Nick and Nora. Our new puppy is named Asta. I mean, this is we're those people.
Okay,
But
good.
those characters, I mean Myrna Loy and William Powell, like
Yeah.
they are so playful with each other, and they take all their faults, and they have plenty of mutual faults,
Mm-hmm.
and they play with them. They
Mm-hmm.
become part of the story that's funny and the banter. And I know I have diffused so many situations of the stupid crap I've said by
Mm-hmm.
owning it with play.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's such an insight. I think of it in two ways. One, that the the safer we come to feel with each other, that the more that we are comfortable with our own vulnerability, comfortable with my vulnerability in this relationship. Playfulness is like a very predictable side effect of that. The people that
Mm,
are the most comfortable with their vulnerability and most comfortable in relationship with each other are the most playful. Uh, and it's also, there's something in the way that you tell the story that points at the lightness with which you carry yourself,
mm-hmm,
right? And that is also, the light way in which we can just express that humility of, like, one of the things that I don't know if you do this as well, but sometimes the tone that I say something in
Mhm.
is not necessarily the tone I intended. Right. And my partner and I have this very sort of like sweet and funny way of being like, was that the, and you're like, yep, no,
Yeah.
that was, I heard that. She's like, did you hear that? I was like, yeah, no, I heard that. That was not, that was not the, I don't even know where that tone came from. Right.
Yeah.
So there is something that is, but it's a playfulness in that spot where like, we know we're navigating inside this delicate space, but there's a gracefulness, there's a grace that we can bring to it because we're practiced in that space, right? And humor, I think, is one of the ways in which we signal both our caring and our um, that we intend no harm.
Hmm. Yeah, we work with the academic community a lot,
Mm,
mostly around improvisation. Though my wife Ann is a academic who also is a comedy academic, humor academic, and comedy is trickier. Humor is trickier because the line I always use is you shouldn't use it without a license because it's gonna get you in trouble. It's the misuse of humor is just canceled more people than anything, I think.
right.
Uh, but that's also because it's a superpower,
Mm,
so I wish, I don't think I got enough years left of this planet to do this, but I wish it were something that we could build out for all humans because it is, what's that line? The shortest distance between two people is a laugh.
mm,
It's incredibly important and I've
right.
seen this in literature, right?
Yeah.
The sense of humor and all that, but it's not easy.
Mm,
And it takes time to learn it, and then is the timing right? This is the other thing. What's the context of the room you're in? It's like it is
hmm.
all comedy is not created equal across a variety of contexts. So it's hard enough
So
for us to
interesting.
right to get it right. And so but we use it. Everyone
Hmm.
uses it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with this. It's
Well, no, I
just
think, what's coming up for me is that why do people get canceled? Right.
yeah.
Because of it. Right. Because when you're trying to be funny in front of other people,
Yeah.
you're, you, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're traveling together into vulnerable space.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, when the comedian's on stage, probably one of the most vulnerable making
Mm-hmm.
things that one can do. I'm just going to come out here either by myself or with my friends, right? And we're going to just start revealing things, right? But they're common things, right? The thing that makes it funny is that the audience recognizes it, right? And they're often things that are really intensely vulnerable. And
All
it's
of them. Yes, it's what's wrong. Think of it. I do this all the time. Every Netflix special of your favorite comedians, they are
yep.
revealing their thing. John Mulaney's a drunk. Amy Schumer's a slut. Patton Oswalt's a schlub. I could keep going forever,
Right. Yeah.
but it's what. And there's this very interesting. Kurt Gray has a great book on the cultural divide that we're in,
Mm,
and he said the one thing that he has found that allows people to speak across difference. Hi, dog. The one thing that allows people to speak across difference is shared harm,
mm,
and that's
yeah.
kind of what's going on there.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. And that's it. And so it makes sense. I love the line about you shouldn't operate without a license, right? Because you're inviting each other into that into that vulnerable space. And if it doesn't, when it works, there's something in it that is the sweetness of the laugh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is recognizing ourselves in each other. There's an acceptance in it, right? I think when there is more judgment in it, when there's more critique in it, and then that can tip into contempt, that's when people get hurt. And
Yep.
then that's when people get canceled.
Yeah. Exactly. In a moment, I'm going to ask you for a yes and story, but before we
Sure.
do that, in chapter 9, that chapter is burning intimacy bridges. You have a very short line that I want you to tell us what you mean. You say, "quote If we are lucky, it's our fault."
Yeah, so this has become more and more the soapbox that I get on in my work with couples, that our, when we are stung, and stinging happens all the time, right? Especially in that vulnerable, when we're really inside a quill's distance, our instinct is either fight or flight.
Yeah.
And both of those show up in ways that are blaming of the other, right? So I'm hurt and it's your fault, and you need to do something about it. And then we fall into this stance that is incredibly passive, because I'm waiting for you to do something, and I'm just signaling in some often passive way that I'm hurt. And this idea that if you're lucky, it's your fault. It comes from an old Zen story about the chef was in a hurry because they were running late, and when he was out in the garden, he um, unbeknownst to him, cut off the head of a snake and included it in the vegetables that went into what's supposed to be a vegetarian soup.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the monks were like, "This is the most delicious soup ever." And at some point, the master, the teacher, holds the snake head up in his chopsticks, right, and says,
Mm-hmm.
"What's this?" Right? Like, this is a moment, right, of like, you're in trouble. And the head cook just walks up and takes the snake's head in his own chopsticks and says, "Oh, there it is," and just pops it in his mouth and eats it. Right. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
eating the blame. Right. And everybody
Mm-hmm.
laughs because, everybody knows what's happening. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's taking the reins of the moment. Right. It's grabbing the steering wheels in the moment. And for me, this is a way of helping partners to recognize that you always have agency in the relationship. In every moment, you have agency. If there is hurt, and even if you're the one that was hurt, there's something you can do. There's something that you may have done. There's something that you're failing to do in that moment. So if you're lucky, it's your fault, because then you can do something about it, right? Like, my partner said something and it hurt my feelings, and now I'm turned away. If I'm lucky, it's my fault. What's my fault in this moment? I'm turned away.
Uh,
I can turn back, right?
yeah.
And say, "Oh,
Yeah.
sweetie, that thing that you said really hurt my feelings," right? And I kind of need you to say sorry or whatever, right? And like, "Oh, shoot, I didn't even realize that happened." And of course, we start with like excuse, excuse, excuse. And then hopefully we get to, "But you're right, I didn't mean that, and I'm sorry." Right. So it is a practice. It can be incredibly humbling. But when we can recognize that in every moment we have responsibility, we have an ability to respond, then we become the stewards of our lives and the stewards of our relationships. And it's something that we are doing and we are cultivating, and not something that's just happening to us.
When I used to hire talent at Second City, so I did that from 92 to 2015. One of the things I learned to say to every new person who came in is, I'm like, all right, so we're hiring you to Second City. Now it's your fault.
I
And,
love that.
and my point was, we're an institution that everyone complains about because it's the dream factory, and whether you got the dream or didn't get the dream. But I'm like, but we are just all the people who make this up. So if you want to change something, it's now in your hands and my hands. It's
Yeah.
all about, we're it. And I think it stuck. And I think I forgot about it until I read that line. And I'm almost going to recommend that we return to it, because it is that sense of, I think one of the things that gets lost today, and maybe it was always something that was hard to grasp onto,
Mm,
it is that sense of like, hey, this is us. This is
right.
this is all of us. We're all doing this or not doing this, and
Right.
and and it only works if we all do it.
Right.
It's that, when we play zero sum game, there's a loser. So let's not.
Right. Right. Yeah, I love that. It's absolutely the same thing, right? It's that
Mm-hmm.
invitation into like, you're responsible now for what happens here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is both an "oh no" quality to
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
a "oh good," right? Because then I get to have an influence, right? Like, I'm not just waiting to see what happens. I'm not a passive recipient. I am one of the authors of what's happening here, and that's always true.
Yeah, you have a line in the book. You say we co-create each other.
Yeah.
And that's lovely. That's exactly it. All right.
Yeah.
We always end the podcast asking for a yes and story. You got one for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been an academic my whole life, right? So these are the seas that I swim in, and most of what I do is like do research and write about research and get grants and do that sort of thing. I've been swimming in academic waters for my whole life, and there was a point. What is this? Like 8 years ago now, where the provost of my university, Clark University here in Worcester, Massachusetts, came to me and said that, we're looking for one of the faculty on campus to leverage their intellectual property and like start a startup company. And would you be interested in doing that? And what I know about business would fit in a thimble, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is like, I've had a grant that I was working on. I had this whole trajectory, but one of my, I always make the joke that that movie Yes Man is sort of about me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I just say yes,
Mm-hmm.
and then I figure it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was completely non-academic. I probably, to the point of the question, should have just said no.
Yeah.
But I said, yeah, let's figure out how to do that, right? Having absolutely no idea what I was doing. So we started.
What happened?
So we started this little startup company to disseminate the relationship checkup. Then it was called the marriage checkup,
Mm-hmm.
which is the relationship health equivalent of your annual health checkup, your regular dental checkup. It's a way to change the way that we do relationship health from reactive tertiary care to preventative care.
Mm-hmm.
So we started this company. We named it Aramu, which is ancient Sumerian. We believe, at least according to a Google search, for love.
Uh-huh.
So Aramu means love, and I found, like my closest colleague and talked her into doing it with me. And then we found a business guy to throw in with us to do that. This young Clarky, to be, the one person that knew anything about business, and stumbled around failing for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were finally lucky enough to secure some grants with the Office of the Secretary of Defense to train all of the military family life counselors around the world to do relationship checkups, which really just like solidified the company. It's so now we're like, oh, we actually are a company. We're not just the idea of a company. And we've just had a lot of success recently in training providers to do regular relationship checkups, and to being able to provide regular relationship checkups to couples who want to take good and regular care of their relationship health. So as it turns out, I don't suck at business. Who
Right.
knew?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. The book is called The Mindful Path to Intimacy, Cultivating a Deeper Connection with Your Partner. James Cordova, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It was wonderful.